Yo, Grand Rising, what's up, everybody? How you doing? This is Coach Renz, and we are on our Tuesday live of What's Wrong with the Bible, Deuteronomy chapters 19 and 20. We're going to give about 5 minutes for people to get on and for me to take care of a few other things on TikTok. But we are live on TikTok and YouTube. I will try to make sure I share comments that the comments that I talk about. I will send them on the live screen so that everybody can see them. As you come in, let me know who you are, where you at. Appreciate everybody for sharing the video. Continue to share, and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. We about to go live on this thing. Started a little bit about an hour later than I wanted to. Don't have as much sunlight, and my ring light ain't throwing off enough light, but it's all right. It's gonna get better lighting as we go through the live here. What do I need? Effects. I always start the TikTok right when we're getting ready to get started. So let me know who you are and where you're coming from. About to lose my tripod a little bit. Nope. Gotta get everything right. Grand Rising, Maria. Grand Rising. Go ahead and get started on TikTok. I ain't waiting. And welcome to the live. Lacey, how you doing? New York City. New York. I don't know if you saw my post about the preacher who was saying that he saw some portals going to open up in New York. Some portals. Good and bad. What's up, Aaron? How you doing? Taking a few minutes to get everything situated so we can get started here. Today is Deuteronomy 19 and 20. Deuteronomy. So on Tuesdays we are reading the whole chapter and verses and breaking down morally what's good and bad about it. It's supposed to be a good God, and if there's anything historic that's incorrect, or if there's anything that is contradictions, we break those things down. Got to get my cigar ready. We're gonna start with this one. Probably go through 2 of them tonight. Grand Rising, Eric. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. Good vibrations, indeed. Hope everybody's having a good day, having a good time. On the TikTok, I need y'all to do me a favor. I need y'all to like, because the TikTok trolls try to always get rid of my TikTok. They're always trying to get rid of it. People don't want to listen to anything that goes contrary to what they believe in, so they try to get rid of it. Now, of course, TikTok gonna give me this age restriction as soon as I light my cigar, but it's all right. What up, Brent? Where you been, man? So we on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube right now. And that's why I don't like you, Brent. Brent is in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's all right. I'm getting on me and Angelina getting on a cruise at the end of towards the end of this month for her birthday. So I get some of that sunshine, but it's like 90 degrees. It's gonna be 90 degrees here tomorrow. That's why we're not doing the videos earlier in the day, because it's too damn hot. It's too hot to do them early in the day. Odessa, Texas, Grand Rising. Rebecca, Grand Rising. Ishmael, Grand Rising. My pleasure to share the information. I need y'all to like it up on TikTok so that we don't get kicked off. I'm gonna light my cigar on the side because TikTok be tripping. Can't let TikTok see my cigar. They got issues over there with their algorithm. So like it up on TikTok. Please like and share the video. We're about to get started here in about 7, 8 seconds. and having our discussion, our usual Tuesday discussion of what's wrong with the Bible, as we are doing Deuteronomy 19 and 20. 19 and 20. Please, if you have any commentary while we're doing the reading part, so for about however long the reading takes, whether it takes 30 minutes or whether it takes an hour, please, let's keep the commentary based on what we're talking about, because I won't answer any questions that are outside of it while we're doing this part. When we get afterwards, when we get into, after we go through the reading here, and we get into will be an open conversation, then we can talk about anything that comes across the board that is of interest of multiple people, and that is something worth talking about. Y'all know I ignore the trolls, so if you're trolling, you're going to get ignored. If you write big long posts, you're going to get ignored as well. So, and if I mess up your name, don't get mad at me, because I'm about to mess up Filzani. I think I'm saying that right. I hope. Grand Rising James over there on TikTok. I know some other people came on TikTok. I didn't see your name. My apologies. So let's get started. So we went over Deuteronomy 17 and 18 last week. If you want to see any of the older ones, just go to my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Lorenzo Reed, Larenzo Reid. Go to my playlist, and you will be able to find all the ones from Genesis up until where we are now. So if you want to see any of the other ones, you can go there on those lives. Those lives are also on Facebook. Facebook, of course, is one of my preferred, Facebook and YouTube. Grand Rising Debbie and Marcus. So you can catch the other ones, the older ones, on those channels if you want to go back and see what we talked about as far as Deuteronomy 17 and 18 was just a whole bunch of laws and things of that nature. So with 19, let us get started. Got to make my eyes right for the reading here, because y'all know I'm not putting my glasses on if I can help it. I'm not putting it on. All right, that's what we're doing. Man, that went out real quick. I didn't even get started on the dang old thing before it went out on. I'm just gonna have to get that age restriction on TikTok. All right. So Deuteronomy 19, we're still in that time frame where Moses is giving out these laws to the children of Israel before they're supposed to go across into this land that they have been promised through the promise of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he's been breaking down how they're supposed to live. Thank you, Rebecca. Grand Rising Felix, Human. What's up? So he's given all these laws that they're supposed to live by, because we know Moses is not going to be going with them, because Moses is going to die, because when he hit that rock with the stick instead of speaking to the rock and then took the credit, God got mad at him and said, I don't care what you've done for me before, you're going to die. So Moses is giving out all the laws of how they're supposed to live when they're over in this promised land. So 19 and 20, it has some really jacked up rules that they're supposed to live by and how they're supposed to live. And I'm really curious as to whether or not the state of Israel, or any Jewish person who is going based on any Israelite going based on this Old Testament, which is what they're supposed to be basing their lives off of, will uphold what we're going to read here in 19 and 20. All right. But this is also this is nice. It's a nice little Nicaraguan cigar. But this is also going to explain what's going on in Israel today, in a sense, and why their mentality is the way that it is. Horizon Amber. So when the Lord your God cuts off the nations whose land the Lord your God gives you, and you disposes them, and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for you in the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess. You shall prepare the roads. Now I was going to get my age restriction. You should prepare the roads and divide it into 3 parts. The area of the land which the Lord your God gives you to possess, so that any manslayer can flee to them. So essentially what this God is saying is that as he gives the Israelites land and they divide up the land, he is not insisting that they are supposed to build schools, that they are supposed to build courthouses, that they're supposed to build farms, and they're supposed to build like a government. No. The first thing he's telling them is that I need you to divide up the land and create 3 sanctuary cities for anyone who accidentally kills someone. So I wonder if that is, do they have that in Israel today, where they have 3 cities where people can flee to when when they manslaughter someone. And it's going to give an example of like what type of situation they're talking about here. But any accidental death, these people are supposed to go to these murder cities and be able to dwell in those murder cities. And it's going to tell you why. So we'll continue so that you can understand why it's saying this. This is the provision for the manslayer, who by fleeing there may save his life. If anyone kills his neighbor unintentionally without having been an enemy, without having been at enmity with him in the past, and when the man goes into the forest and with his neighbor to cut wood, and his hand swings the axe to cut down a tree, and the head slips off while the handle and strikes the neighbor, slips off the handle and strikes the neighbors, so that he dies, he may flee to one of these cities to save his life, lest the avenger of blood in hot anger pursues the manslayer and overtakes him, because the way is long, and wound him mortally, though the man did not deserve to die, since he was not at enmity with his neighbor in the past, in the time past. Therefore, I command you to set apart 3 cities. So basically, you go out with your neighbor, y'all trying to build a house, you decide you're cutting some wood, you're having a good conversation, got you a little cigar, a little wine, you swing the axe fall off the handle, come off the handle in the midst of the swing, kills your neighbor. It's purely an accident. You didn't intend to do it. You and your neighbor are cool. You're sharing some cigars and some good wine. So you didn't mean to do it. But it kills the neighbor, right? Yeah, light your cigar, you. It kills your neighbor. So now you're supposed to flee to this sanctuary city that are 3 in number because of the amount of land that you guys have been given. And then this is so that the family won't come and try to kill you out of the anger of you killing your neighbor. And now there has to be no enmity. This can't be premeditated. So this is manslaughter in our terms today. And so this God doesn't want other people to be sinful and seek revenge on this person because they didn't mean to do it. So they have to go live in the murder city and leave everything behind uh, until they deal with it. And it's kind of messed up that this person has to go and leave his whole family and everything that he knows simply because he had committed an accident. But it's this God's way of keeping people from doing it, from seeking revenge. Now, the crazy thing about it is you're going to set this up, and that's the first thing you talk about. Was that a major problem that you were having with your Israelite people, where there's so many unintentional killings? I need you to like up that TikTok because it wants to stop me in 5 minutes. Is that the problem that y'all have? That there's so many people that are accidentally killing people, these chosen people, that they got to set up 3 sanctuary cities just for accidental murders. Well, let's continue. Therefore, I command you, you shall set apart 3 cities. And if the Lord your God enlarge your borders, as he has sworn that to your fathers, and give you all the land which he promised to give to your fathers, provided you are careful to keep all his commandments, which I command you this day, by loving the Lord your God and by walking ever in his way, then you shall add 3 other cities to these 3, least innocent blood be shed in your land, which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, and so the guilty bloodshed be upon you. So when he increases your land, make 3 more cities. So you get more land. You got 6 sanctuary cities for the unintentional murders. That was so important to be needed in this time frame. Grand Rise from Australia, Grand Rise and HK, bricks. All right, Leslie, you guys won't be able to see the comments on TikTok, but I read them off the ones that I talk about. But Leslie Ann said the fact, I had it up and it went away. The fact that it's so oddly specific made me wonder what's happening that it was written like that. Exactly. Like, were they having so many accidental murders in this place that no Moses, who is supposed to be writing this, to which we know he wasn't writing it, is making this a thing? Because at the time frame that this would have been written would have been in the at the earliest around 1000 BCE. Uh, Most of it being written during the 800s and 700s BCE, and not finalized until the 5 and 400s BCE. So, this is something that was happening in the northern kingdom, and mostly the northern kingdom of Israel are the ones who are writing this. So this was happening so much in the northern kingdom of Israel that they had to include this. Uh, it just lets you know how jacked up the society was at that time frame, uh, and demonstrates that we are, our moralities have gotten better than theirs, even though we are still jacked up in a lot of our ways as well. But let's continue this portion of it. But if any man hates his neighbor, because you got to have something for the ones who actually kill somebody on purpose. What's up, Donald? Hey, Donald, I ain't seen you in a while, man. Uh, Hear a lot of accidents. But if any man hates his neighbor and lies in wait for him and attacks him and wounds him mortally so that he dies, and the man flees into these cities, then the elders of the city shall send and fetch him from there and hand him over to the avenger of blood so that he may die. You shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from Israel so that it may be well with you. That's a an interesting judicial system that I am thrilled we do not have today. Uh, but you can see elements of it in the racism that we have had in our cultures. Basically, it's saying that if someone purposely murders your family member, they cannot stay in the sanctuary city. They must be returned back to the city. The elders will judge that person, and then they are to be turned over to the family members to which you have committed this heinous crime of murder, of premeditated murder. And then the family gets to kill the person who murdered your family. Uh, you have seen, if you studied any portion of American history, you have seen this sort of thing occurring through racism in America. When a black man or a black woman is accused of something, oftentimes it wasn't that they went to court, but that the townspeople and the family came and gathered themselves up, and then they murdered whomever was accused of something before they had a trial. In this instance, it's insinuating that they know the person killed them on purpose, and then but still handing them over to the family. So we see this mentality. There are a lot of things in this Bible that people twisted into their own thing based on race, and I'm going to explain that even more in I believe it's the next chapter, because it very specifically talks about Israelite to Israelite. So this is why it was permissible in the minds of people that if I am of my own culture, if it's someone of my own culture, I treat them differently. If it's someone outside my culture, then I can treat them more harshly. And we see this happening all over the world, even to this very day. That if it's someone, there are different laws for those who are within your culture, and there are laws for those who there are different laws for those within your culture than those who are outside of your culture. And this is just one of those types of things that uh, that's being used. The Bible is being used for that, right? Grand Rising, everybody who's popped on here recently. So let's go ahead and continue with this chapter. In the inheritance which you will hold in the land that your Lord God gives you to possess, you shall not remove your neighbor's landmark, which men of old have set. This is actually pretty decent. I'm gonna give it credit. This is pretty decent. So basically, if you can recall the history of the Manifest Destiny, or the Great Land Rush, rather, when people went out, they were able to just put stakes in the ground and claim land in the Midwest and go in the Midwest and make that their own land when the Americas wanted to populate past the Mississippi with more American colonists. When somebody put that stake in the ground, oftentimes there were fights over somebody moving someone's stake. I move it a foot a day, and then I take over more and more of their land. So this one is essentially saying, don't do that, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I'll take that one. That's a good one. You shouldn't be stealing someone's land, right? Even though they're going in to steal someone's land in this whole situation, they're stealing someone's land. So continue. And we talked a little bit about this last week. Well, we talked a lot about this last week because they put so much emphasis on witnesses. So verse 15 starts out with, a single witness shall not prevail against a man who has for any crime or for any wrong in connection with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses shall a charge be sustained. If a malicious witness rises against any man to accuse him of wrongdoing, then both parties of the dispute shall appear before the Lord, before the priest and the judges who are in office in those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from the midst of you, and the rest shall hear, and shall never commit any such evil doings among you. Your eye shall not pity, nor shall it, no, your eye shall not pity. It shall be life for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, and foot for a foot. I know y'all know that last one. Yeah, that's been said so many times. Um, you know it. But basically, it's just as we had discussed last week. One person as a witness cannot accuse a person and then you uphold that person account and say that it's true. There must be 2 or 3 other witnesses to be a part of it, which is one of the reasons why, and we discussed this, how in the Jehovah Witness, when young girls or boys have been molested by um, someone within the congregation, since there is not 2 or 3 witnesses, their claims go unfounded, and those people get to still be in office. And if anything, what they do is they take those verses, and say, well, since you bared false witness against this person as to the crime of molesting you or whatever, stealing money, now we're going to kick you out of the church. We're going to turn our backs on you. You cannot be a part of the congregation because that's what you was trying to create with that person. And this is a failure in this book because it doesn't take into account other methods of being able to tell whether or not a person had done something to another person or not. If you have a young daughter and she's been taken advantage of, let's not investigate and send her to the hospital, get a kit done to verify whether or not this actually has happened to her. No, there wasn't 2 witnesses. So we're going to side with the, essayist here. And although I can understand the benefit, you don't want one person accusing someone of something. But if one person is the only person who witnessed something, then let's do some other checking to find out. Let's investigate it. Let's truly investigate the situation. If someone says I saw him steal this, well, it's just one witness. No, let's go look in his house and see if he stole it. Let's check on his whereabouts. Let's do a lot more here. One witness can be telling the truth, but you need 2 or 3 witnesses. And then if the witness is found to be false, then we're going to prevail against that witness. right? Now, if a witness is truly false, then that witness does have to pay the crime, which would be something good today. And I'm finna get straight onto a man moment. I'm gonna get straight to a man moment. All right. In our systems today, we know that if a man is accused of harming a woman, his ass is guilty right off the bat. Right off the bat. Right off the bat. I abhor, I abhor domestic violence. I do not think domestic violence is a valid thing, that no one should have to experience it. But y'all know, unless a man got video, unless a man is all scratched all up and beat the hell all up, his ass is guilty. Point blank. That's it. So we do know people can bear false witness against someone. We understand that. This is why investigations should be done on a situation to make sure. But what pisses me off is that when a false allegation is made towards a man and it deals with something like home, domestic violence or being molested, if the woman is proven to be false, that man has no retribution. The woman doesn't pay any penalties. How many times have we seen where some dude, and I know I'm going on a tangent here, but some dude been paying child support for 18 years, find out that it's not his child, and even though he should have did the work in the beginning, I will grant you that, but then she ain't got to pay it back. It's all a gift. Mm-mm. Hell no. But that's why I always tell dudes, you need to do your due diligence. My son get ready to have a baby. I'm like, man, you better test that baby. I don't care. You better test that baby. Went off on my own little tangent there. So let me draw it back. Draw it back. My man said, what happened to turn the other cheek? You don't get to turn the other cheek until you get to the Jesus teachings, which is one of those things that demonstrates that this Jesus is teaching something different than what this God taught. Because the God of this Bible is saying, you don't turn no other cheek. Somebody do something to you, you turn around and do it right back to them. So there is no turn of the other cheek. But this is also why the Gnostics said that the God of the Old Testament was an evil God, the demiurge, and that Jesus was coming in the essence of the Sophia in order to get everything back online, to get people, to open people's eyes so that they can then uh, elevate themselves out of this prison that the demiurge has created, because the demiurge created this existence without the use and without the use and wisdom of the Sophia, and not even with the Barbarlo, just all on his own, totally male centric energy, and that's it. So this is why the Gnostics said Jesus worshipped a different God than the Old Testament Jews. But of course, that didn't pan out too well for them, because the Orthodox won the Roman army over, and that's why we have the version of Christianity that you have to this day. Mm-hmm. What do you say? That's messed up. Come on, test should be mandatory in these times. Test should be mandatory, and I will definitely make my son. I don't care what he say. Shit, I did it. I did it. Sure did. Said God and Jesus were playing good cop and bad cop. Indeed, indeed. All right, let's get this next chapter. These are two short chapters, so we're going to get quickly into the just any conversation that you guys want to have. But we see uh, this type of law that this God has, and everything about this God is supposed to be forever. But these are not sustainable, and we are really going to see the cruelty of this deity in chapter 20. So chapter 20 starts out with, when you go forth to war against your enemies and see horses and chariots and an army larger than your own, you shall not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God is with you, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Now, many times before, this deity has said, I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, therefore you shouldn't treat other people the same way that you were treated. But he about to renege on all of that. And when you draw near to battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to the people, and shall say to them, Oh, hear, O Israel, you draw near this day to battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint. Do not fear or tremble or be in dread of them, for the Lord your God is he that goes with you to fight for you against your enemies, to give you victory. All right, if that's the case, then why do they need to go fight? I've always wondered that. Why do they need to go fight? Why don't you just go on and just wipe out everybody? Why don't you just send some disease, kill everybody, and you ain't got to fight? Nobody dies, right? Nobody actually have to take anybody's life, right? It just, why you got to fight? Because these are men fighting, and in every battle throughout history, people have always said their particular deity is on their side and is going to give them victory. It's just a pep talk. Then the officer shall speak to the people and say, What man, where is that? What man is there that has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go back to his house, lest he die in battle and another man dedicates it. And what man is there that has planted a vineyard and has not enjoyed its fruit? Let him go back to his house, lest he die in battle and another man enjoys its fruit. And what man is there that is betrothed to a wife and has not taken her? Get that pom pom. Let him take her, let him go back to his house, lest he die in battle and another man takes that pom pom. The officer shall speak further to the people and say, What man is there that is fearful and faint hearted? Let him go back to his house, lest the heart of his fellows melt as his heart. And when the officer have made an end of speaking to of the people, then commander shall be appointed at the head of the people. As a Marine, you kind of want to appoint them commanders before you go to battle, before you do all of this kind of stuff. We're in Deuteronomy 9. We just finished Deuteronomy 19, George, and we're on Deuteronomy 20. Just started 20. Uh, but basically, they just said if you just started adulting, you got your house, but you ain't been able to live in your house and dedicate your house. You just planted some vineyard, and you ain't been able to have none of that sweet wine. You supposed to get married, but you ain't yet got that poom poom and got married to your woman. Or if you a chicken shit, go back home, get drunk, get married, live in your house, be a little coward. We don't need you up in here. Go do some adulting first. But this also says, and this is something that goes against what people do today. This is also saying that the only men who should go into battle are men who are homeowners, have vineyards so they have some type of wealth building mechanism, are married and have enjoyed the fruit of their marriage, and they're kind of men. That sounds like people who got their life going on. But we know today that we send poor men and women now, but poor men and women into war. We do not send people into war who own homes. We do not send people into war who got vineyards. We do not send people into war who are married. More than half of the young people who go to battle are single. Uh, and a whole lot of shenanigans go on. Trust me, I can tell you a lot was going on during the Iraqi war when I was there. But it would be nice if the people who got money go to war instead of the poor people, instead of the people who haven't had a chance to adult. We're sending 18 and 19-year-olds into battle. We're not sending the 30 and 40-year-olds into battle who's had a chance to live life. We're sending the children, right? So that would be good if they followed that. That would be good. Even in Israel, who are supposed to be following this, the Israelites mandate that when you turn of age, you have to do it's either 2 or 3 years in their military. So before you even get a chance to start your life, the Israelites are over there who's supposed to follow this saying, hell no, you're gonna fight first. You would think they would say, nope, 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 we're gonna wait. Go get your life started, get your career going, get your husband, wife, uh, have some babies, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're about 30, you got to do your 3 years. I'm gonna get you when you ain't got shit. I'm gonna get you when you're young. Hmm. But it would be nice if rich people fought their own battles. But we know even in their times, well, I ain't gonna say that. In their time, rich people did fight more than rich people fight today. Like, that is really more of a, I'm gonna say, 16th, 17th century kind of thing, where poor people start doing more of the fighting and the rich people didn't go fight shit. Uh, but that is more of a modern development. But that would be good. But we know they do not follow this not at all. Now they're going to get really jacked up. When you draw near a city to fight against it, offer terms of peace. That sounds nice, doesn't it? That sounds like this God is a peaceful God, that he doesn't want people to fight, that he wants people to live in peace. So let's offer terms of peace. And if the answer to you is peace, and it opens to you, then all the people who are found in it shall do forced labor for you and shall serve you. Yep, just fucked it up right there, didn't they? So they roll up on your city, they offer you peace. If you accept their peace, you have to become their slaves. Basically, that's what it just said. And of course, we know back in Leviticus 25, it says that all the people who are of foreign nations, you make them slaves as property, and chattel slavery. They become property, and you get to pass them down for generations. So when you go fight cities uh, that are far away, so they are definitely going to be different nations. They're not going to have any relative connection to your heritage, your people. Then you can make them slaves. They have to become your slaves. So much for the peaceful, loving God, because once again, this God loves his murder, loves his genocide, loves his slavery. But let's continue. But if it, um, but if it makes no peace with you, but makes war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when the Lord your God gives it into your hands, you shall put all its males to the sword. Understand, all its males. A lot of people in their minds like to think all its males is just talking about adults. But no, all its males means all its males. Old men, young men, and the babies. Kill all of them. But the women and the little ones, which is just inferring little girls, the cattle and everything else in the city, all its spoils, you shall take as booty for yourselves, and you shall enjoy the spoils of your enemies, which the Lord your God has given you. So, I mean, thus you shall do to all the cities which are very far from you, which are not cities of the nations here. So let's go and kill all. If they don't want to be our slaves, then we kill all the men, and then we take all the women and young girls, and we make them our slaves. We keep all of their cattle. We keep all the money and gold or whatever we find, and we get to count that as plunder and keep it for ourselves, for this loving God. And this is what you do to all the cities that are far away from you. But what of the cities that are near you? But in the cities of these people that the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance, you shall save alive nothing that breathes. Now, I want to remind you, I think it's somewhere like Numbers 34 or Numbers 35. It said that it had told them then that for those cities near to them, that they will drive those people out. It didn't say to kill everybody back in Numbers. So this actually is a contradiction or a change of mind of this God, because now he's saying everything that breathes, you have to unalive, which would mean all the people and all the animals, you everything. complete and total genocide, when a book before he was saying, just drive them out. Just drive them out. But he's going to tell you why. But you shall utterly destroy them. And he gives a name. He lists them: the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded. This is not a thing of, maybe. This is a command from this God, that they may not teach you to do according to their abominable practices, which they have done in the service of their God, and so to sin against the Lord your God. And he was here with us last week. We got into this whole big discussion. This one person, Victor, mainly, was talking about how, well, those people, and art of being as well, was talking about how those people were practicing like child sacrifice. They were sleeping with animals and all that. That's according to the Israelites. That's what they were doing. It's kind of like the only things we know about the Marcians, the Marcian version of Christianity, is what the Orthodox Christianity wrote about them. And of course, they wrote all negative things about them. So can you really trust that? It's kind of just in the same way, like we all, if you grew up in America, you learned about the USSR. It was all negative, nothing positive. But of course, when I read their history book, then America was all negative and nothing positive. So propaganda. So the only thing that we know that these people would not have been doing is worshiping this particular version of Yahweh, because we know the Canaanites had their version of Yahweh. The other ones had their other deities of Baal and Mot that they were worshiping. So the testable thing here, the only detestable thing here that you can literally actually hang your hat on, is the fact that they would not worship this particular God, and this God doesn't want its people to shift over to worshiping their gods, because we know what happened at Moab. According to this story, them Israelite men got that good Moabite pum pum, and then they started worshiping the god of the Moabites, which is a variation of Yahweh. So that's the whole big reason why they got to genocide this people, is because this God is insecure and has to, keep his people with him. And my man here, Chronos, is right. The Israelites also sacrifice children. Right. They sacrifice children within the story in Judges, but they also sacrifice children when you read the earlier parts of Exodus, when all the firstborn are to be given to this God in the same way that the firstborn calves and firstborn sheep and goats are. So that's the whole reason why they got a genocide. But this is supposed to be a loving God. You can't come in and show these Canaanites and Hivites and Perizzites your love. Of course not. Of course not. Because later on, I think it's in Deuteronomy 25 or somewhere around in there, it's going to talk about the fact that Elion gave the Israelites to Yahweh as his portion, because those are not his people. And so that's why you got to be chosen. And since they're not chosen, they must be destroyed. Right. So let's finish off this chapter. When you this part makes sense militarily. It does make sense militarily. When you besiege a city for a long time, making war against it in order to take it, you shall not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them, for you may eat of them. But you shall not cut down, but you shall not cut them down. Are the trees in the field men that they should be besieged by you? Only trees which you know are not trees for food you may destroy and cut down, that you may build siege weapons against the city, and that makes war with you until it falls. It makes sense militarily. You don't chop down the trees that you can use for food to sustain you during this battle, during this war. But rest of the trees, cut them down so that you can besiege these cities and then go in and genocide the hell out of the people. Right? So those are two short chapters. And even though we probably could do more chapters today, because those are too short, and sometimes I think about doing that, but two chapters at a time. Two at a time. But we see how The morality of this God is still less than the morality that we have today. Uh, as a Marine, when I went into situations of combat, I had to be aware of the Geneva Convention, which said that total war is illegal. I could not go into an area and genocide an entire village. We couldn't fight, kill non-combatants. We were not supposed to. If it was a Red Cross building, or if it was a hospital, not say Red Cross, if it was a hospital or a religious site, you cannot destroy it, nor can you go in and attack the people inside there, even if the enemy is inside there and they're inside there, you still cannot go in and attack it. So we had rules of war that were more civil than this God. We did not destroy women and children, and never do you take um, booty. And I mean, gold, silver. Actually, there were a lot of military people who got in trouble after Desert Storm, the first one, because they was taking trinkets home. They were taking souvenirs of war out of, because we raided all the museums and whatnot. So, and when some people got caught with that, but we did not loot. We don't loot. It's not what we do. You don't do that. We have that morality today, but they did not have that. And we certainly did not take the women and the little girls as spoils of war. This is just indicative of the time frame, which is one of those things that let us know that this book is written based on a culture of that day, and it is not sustainable. And that's one of the reasons why, there are so many reasons why I walked away from this Bible. So I keep saying this is one of the reasons why, but that is certainly one of the reasons why I walked away from this book, because the morality of this book is not sustainable to our culture today. And if it's not sustainable to our culture today, then you are not the God of yesterday, today, and for the future. Because even things that Christians talk about today and that Christians believe in today, I would imagine that if this religion is able to last another, say, 500 years, I doubt it, but if it were to last 500 years, at the level that it's at, there will be things that they will say we are doing, that Christians are doing now, that are immoral. And they won't, and they will think that that these people who participate in Christianity today were out of line with this God. Because I went to war with many Christians. Hell, I was a Christian when I went to war. What the hell am I saying? I was a Christian when I went to war. But at no point, and I knew these parts of Deuteronomy, but at no point would I ever engage to those levels, because I know it's wrong, even though this God is saying it. But when you look at this situation going on with Palestine and Israel, this is why Israelis feel the way they feel. This is why some more cultish level Christians feel the way they feel about utterly destroying the Palestinians, because this is what this God has instructed previous generations of Israelites to do, is to utterly destroy the people, to kill the women and kill the children, to kill everybody, the old people. That if you don't believe in this God and you're not part of their special clique, then you deserve to die. So that's the way they do it. That's why people believe in this stuff. That's why people do some of these things that they're doing. But they're certainly not building these sanctuary cities. And wouldn't that, how would that even look today? Let's say Charlotte was a sanctuary city. You got a city full of people who accidentally kill somebody. And then how would it be if we said, okay, you killed this person on purpose, so the families get to kill you back? They already got trauma. Now they're going to take someone's life, which is more trauma. We got enough wisdom to know that you will create more trauma in people if you allow people to avenge the murder that someone just committed towards your family members. Mm-mm. That's not righteous. That's not a good judicial system. Oh, and I forgot, when we talked about the witnesses, as we've seen in previous chapters and previous books, and what we will see in more books, that only goes for men. Ladies, that only goes for men. that does not include you. You have no say so in this at all. That is one of the reasons why. Uh, and let me tell you how that's been shown in history, not just with women. If you know anything about Jim Crow laws in the Americas, because we have a worldwide audience here, but if you know anything about Jim Crow laws in America, there was a time that a black man could not be considered a true witness to a white man. That black people could not. Mm-mm. If a black person gave witness, and that is why I said it talked when it was talking about that, it was talking about your fellow Israelites. It is not talking about people who are not Israelites. So you have to be an Israelite man for your account of being a witness to be considered true. If you are an Israelite woman, no, it has to be backed up by a man. If you are a foreigner, it don't mean a damn thing to these people. And we've seen that mentality in our own history more recently. Oh, and I'm supposed to follow this book? I don't think so. I'm good. I'm good. I'm very good with this. Um, so, did you guys enjoy the reading today? I know it was much shorter than normal. Didn't even make it past an hour and a half. Normally, the reading takes us about an hour and a half, but there wasn't a whole lot in this one as far as length, but it sure was jacked up in its morality. Leslie said it always makes me laugh when Christians say people today are so immoral, like they're just completely ignoring the genocide, rape, incest, and slavery of the Bible. And one of the reasons why is people, people forget how messed up things were in their childhood. And then when they become adults, they think that everything has gotten worse. It's really that you just weren't paying attention. Like, I didn't know all the jacked up things that was going on as a small child because I was born in 71 in the 70s. I didn't know all the racism that was going on. I didn't know a lot of the things that was going on in the 70s. In the 80s, as a preteen and teenager, hell, I was just having fun. I didn't know all the things that was going on. You don't start realizing things until you become an adult. And then your memory of your childhood is like, everything was great. The hell are you talking about? And so these Christians run that gambit. And they certainly don't think about how jacked up things were during these biblical times. These biblical times, people were did not have as much affinity for the respect of life that we have today. So it was just they didn't think much of animals. They sacrificed animals to some deity that they had no proof existed. They made up laws that was to benefit themselves and then men, first men and then their culture, and treated everybody else as if they only deserved and slavery. Demetrius said, if not Jesus, who speaks to you when something tells to go another direction and it saves your life? Me. Me speaks to me. Me speaks to me. Uh, this is not actually uh, that was life saving, but I can't tell you about it. That was life saving, but I can't tell you about it. Something non life saving. There was one time when I said my gut told me to go left to go home, but instead I went right. And when I went right, a police officer pulled me over. The light above the tag was out, and I didn't know my license was suspended. I went to jail. I should have, it was me. Me talks to me. Me tells me. That gut tells me. Like that instinct, that gut that's connected to universal knowledge and to the energy of the universe, that tells me I don't need Jesus. I don't need Krishna. I don't need Allah. I don't need Brahma. None of them. None of them tells me anything because none of them are real. It is all within yourself. So it is your own divine intuition. And then there's you learn shit. You learn stuff. If I go to a city and I see that this is a rundown high crime part of town, I don't need Jesus to tell me not to go into that part of town. My own experience of life and knowledge of life says don't go into that part of town. It's kind of like when I drove across the bridge from Philly and I was trying to go into the city, but I wound up going to Camden, New Jersey. Just looking at Camden from the highway told me to go past Camden before I turn around. I can look over there and tell that's not a place for a person who's a stranger in a rental car that is clearly a rental car to be going. Yeah, I'm good. So, and see, everybody is connected. Like one of the teachings in Hermetics is that everything in the universe is connected because everything is energy. And all energy is connected and is connected by different, and there are different frequencies and vibrations within the universe. And those things, if you learn how to access them, and some of it is intellectually and some of it is emotional, and then some of it is just a, a, a connection you can't explain. You know what's right and what's wrong, what to do, what not to do. But it doesn't have to be connected. It's not the source is not some conscious being deity that walks around saying go and genocide everybody. And that's the that who just said this? Like trauma said, don't lean to your own understanding. What? Exactly. When somebody says that to me, I say the same thing that trauma said. What? What? Whose understanding am I supposed to lean on? I'm supposed to lean on some understanding of some people who wrote thousands of years ago. I don't know if you guys saw my video today that I posted where I talked about the whole this God, oh, I got to tell them that the earth is flat and there's a firmament and all this kind of stuff because they don't have the scientific knowledge yet. And then later on, thousands of years later, Augustine says, well, God was just accommodating them for their lack of scientific knowledge. And then John Calvin reiterates that in the 1500s. Yeah, they just didn't know about the science then. So God had to tell them something that they can understand. It's bullshit. He could have told them that he didn't have to tell them a lie. He had to tell them that it was flat. He didn't have to tell them that it was a dome. No, that's bullshit. That's mental gymnastics in order for them to fit it. Y'all need to go look at that video. I'm not going to tell you everything I said in that video as to the rational reason why they wrote that and historical. There's a historical reason why they wrote it. So you have to go look at the video. I just posted them today about an hour or two before I started this. Human said, according to these readings, this guy would approve of the terrorist groups who are attacking America because their families got killed in the airstrike. Yeah, they would. They kill an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, foot for a foot, hand for a hand, life for a life. Yeah, you have questions from this book, no answers from Christian family. You're not going to really get an answer from a Christian if you have questions other than the doctrine or dogma that they already believe in, the justifications that they already have. They're going to say that, well, these were the chosen people, so God had to murder, death, kill all the other Pebusites and Jebusites and Hivites because they were evil. When the act of genociding is evil, the act of making those people slaves is evil, the act of looting and burning and killing everything that is evil. What did the damn goats do? So he said that you got to kill everything that breathes in the cities near you. Otherwise, you will learn to do their detestable things. You can make a case for people, but what did the cow have to do with that? How does a cow lead you to worship a different deity? How does a goat lead you to worship a different deity? You understand what I'm saying? You can take those goats and animals from cities that are far away from you who undoubtedly believe in different gods. Those women and those little girls that you take undoubtedly believes in a different god. But the ones closest to you, you got a problem because you got to kill all the women as well, because in Moab you got that good poom poom and you convert it over. What makes them think that you won't get that? Let's say they was way the hell out in the Indus Valley and they took down some people who were worshiping Brahma. What makes you think that good Indian poom poom who been doing tantra, and they put that tantra on you, and that tantra don't get you to convert over like Krishna, Krishna, Lord Brahma? They put that tantra on you. You know what I'm saying? You know, because that tantra got that gobbledygook, they got that poom poom, they got it all going on. What makes you think that they won't? This is just this guy's being vengeful because all those other ikes near them worship a varying version of Yahweh, or they worship Yahweh's brother, Baal, or his other brother, Mot, and all the other brothers and sisters that came from El and Asherah. And because they are all similar in the worship and the deities and shares. You done or you finished? And have shared stories, then they're afraid that the closeness of the stories will cause the people to question what's going on. See, Brahma's story will be too different for them. You know, the story is too different. If they ran into the Greeks, their story is too different for them. You know, they run into the people, you know, in Axiom, their stories are too different for them. So them, you can bring them, drag them into slavery. But for the ones closest to you, nah, it's a little different. I don't know. It was a naval cargo plane, so I'm not sure what it was. And yes, baby, the chosen people are a bullshit statement. But every group of people believe that they are the chosen people of their deity, whoever their deity is. But that's why you got to genocide all those other people close to them, but the people far away. But it's the same situation. Those people, look, and I saw this video a couple days ago, and Angelina sent it to me today, where this man, they asked this old man, he's like, "Y'all been married 66 years. What has sustained y'all marriage?" And that man said, "She got that good poom poom." So what makes you think that Indus poom poom won't convert folks over? If it worked in one area, it'll work in another. But we know that this is all created history, though. This whole storyline in Deuteronomy is created history, because you until you get the Meneptah Stele in 1200, you have nobody who is called an Israelite, and the Meneptah Stele is the first time you get Israelites. And soon after the Meneptah Stele, uh, the 1200s, that's when the Phoenicians, the sea people, conquered the Egyptians in the Levant area and ran them out of the Levant. So in around 1000, by the time, so 200 years later, in 1000 BCE, now you have these Israelites are creating, they banded together to create a large enough area of land to be a kingdom. And you had the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. And then, uh, so they had to create and manifest their own history, their own antiquity. So they write this Moses story. They write this Genesis, and then all the Genesis stories, and then the Moses story to explain where they came from, even though it was completely a made up story that they pulled from other people. What religion do you, I don't subscribe to any religion. I study Hermetics, the seven Hermetic principles, and all things in and around that. I do like the Tao, but the Tao is not a religion; it's a philosophy. Eric said that the genocide of those times were, in my opinion, to hush and destroy any questions or ideas that would go against the agenda they were pushing. And that would be a fair assessment because only the people close to you can identify whether or not you're telling truth or you're telling lie. You know, you're making up this whole thing about Moses and all this kind of stuff. Whereas the Canaanites would be like, we ain't never heard of no Moses. There's no Moses around. Who the hell is this Moses? But plus, we know that if this was happening in the time frame that it supposedly happened, they left Egypt and they are in more Egypt. This is all still Egypt because, yep, that's a their Egypt was in control of this area from 3000 BCE to 1200 BCE, and then you had the Bronze Age collapse, and then you had a bunch of kingdoms cropping up in the Levant after that time frame. So who is the creator? If there is one, nobody would you wouldn't be able to know it or identify it or figure it out. I can tell you there none of the people who claim to be a creator are the creator. None of these books. What you learn in Hermetics is that a God that is and the Tao, a God who is definable and knowable, it cannot be God. The moment you put it in a book, it cannot be God. So there is we will never know most likely in this life how the universe was created, how life truly came to be on Earth, or any of those things. So did you study the about Christian history that made you decide to Eric very tough to the faith? Did you read the books about the religion? I don't know if you mean that to me or to Eric, but yeah, I pretty much have read and studied most of the religions. Some more deeper than others. Islam only about a year, and then I walked away from that, and that was 30 years ago. I was like, that. I ain't walk away from it because I was never really a part of it. So, Bricks, you're Aboriginal. They were genocide against the slaves. Yeah, they genocide is a thing that, although still happens today, has been a way of man for a very, very long time. You know, the better religions oftentimes don't win. The better military wins. They say, yeah, a lot of these arguments tend to be God of the gaps, and oftentimes it is. We don't have an explanation for it, so we're just going to say God did it. Yeah, it wasn't directed to you, I don't think, Eric. Don't worry about it. Have you studied Zoroastrianism? It was the first monotheistic religion. Actually, Zoroastrianism wasn't the first monotheistic religion. I did study Zoroastrianism, and at the time frame, I believe that it was the first monotheistic religion. But in truth, Hinduism is a monotheistic religion. It is just that European missionaries, when they went to India, told them that their religion was polytheistic, and then the people bought into it. Hinduism, in its original understanding, is that Brahma is the only God, and every other thing that they call a deity is merely aspects of Brahma. Kind of the same way in Yoruba religion, Odomare is the God originally taught, but then the missionaries changed that too, and people are still buying into it. And then everything is just an aspect of Odomare. So many religions had a one God, but then the other heavenly hosts would just be aspects of it. And really, that's the same way that this God is. There's Yahweh, and then the angels are just heavenly hosts that are representatives of him. But Akhenaten taught about the Akhten and there being one God a little bit prior than the Zoroastrians. But I do like the Zoroastrian creed: good thoughts, have good thoughts, speak good words, so that you do good deeds. So, but I when I tried to get deeper into Zoroastrianism, I was a little bit turned off when they told me that the only way you can become a Zoroastrian is you have to be born into Zoroastrianism. And that's why their religion never grew bigger than it ever was when it was under the Persian Empire, because you had to be born into it. You have to realize most religions don't do this evangelizing shit. They are not going out seeking to recruit people. It is one of the reasons why most religions didn't grow the same way as Christianity, other than not having the military behind them. But they don't go out. The people in the Yoruba, they don't go out to recruit you. Jews don't go out and recruit you. Muslims don't go out to recruit you. Buddhists, Hindu, or Indus, Shinto, nobody goes out to recruit you. Christians, the only ones trying to go out and tell everybody they're wrong and they're going to hell. Oh, that's your talking text that does the restroom. Like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, and there is no free will in Christianity, because if you don't worship this God, then he get all salty and you get go burn up and be tortured forever. So you know there is no free will. It's an ultimatum. You have an ultimatum: either you follow it, or you gotta have eternal torture. So, and even in that, how is that the ideas of a loving God? You know what I'm saying? How is that a loving God? Can't be. Echo's saying there is a conversion way. I can't remember really. To Zoroastrianism. They sure didn't want to tell me back in the what was that, like 92? I don't know what religion that is. The Druitic. I don't know what that religion is. That's my first time ever hearing of that. I know what Druids, but I don't know what a Druidic religion is. I'm sorry. Okay. Just making sure I missed any comments over here on the tickety top. Yeah. And John said, trust Christians to overlook their biggest saving grace. If the Bible wasn't the infallible word of God, most of the arguments against it would be null and void. And it would be. It has to. And that whole thing about it being the inspired word, infallible word of God, is actually a dogma that was created in and around the third and fourth century. It wasn't something that you actually can find in this book. It is very fallible and filled with contradictions. Now, if you were talking about the Druidic religion, I'm kind of skeptical on the Druid religions, because Vespasian, when he was in uh, those portions of Europe conquering those people, one of the things he did was to destroy all their writings and all their words. So the information that we have about them right now is a guessing game, but they were just a Germanic religion that worshiped a bunch of other deities, and they participated in their own rituals and magics and all that stuff. But there's no proof that any of their deities is real either. Do you think the Bible will be updated? The Bible is constantly being updated even right now. Uh, I did a video where they are making certain aspects of the Bible to be considered anti-Semitic, by saying that Christ is king. If you go to Canada, your Bibles in Canada, all the things that say is this abomination for a man to lay with a man as he would with a woman has been taken out. The Bible is being updated in a way of taking things out based on culture, but it's also being updated because we are understanding more and more about the language, understand more about it linguistically and culturally. And so some of it is just being corrected as to what those people were thinking back then. Like, I'm waiting for them to correct Genesis 1:1, where instead of saying in the beginning God created, when it should be read as um, when God began to create, meaning that there was already something there and he started creating. Now, that that was the Jehovah Witness. She said Christians really out there saying there's only 144,000 chosen ones, but they still desperately trying to convert people, save people, and sending them missionaries to the world. So the Protestant and Catholic Christian society groups are basically saying that can be saved, but there's 144,000 that will be chosen to kind of be like these leaders and judges, and they will be special kind of people who will usher in this new kingdom. The Jehovah Witness said that there was only be 144,000, then the rapture was going to happen. But then after 144,000 J Dubs came into the fold, they changed the story and said, well, only the 144,000 are these special group who will actually go up and be with God, while everybody else will be here on a new earth. So they keep changing the dogma based on the population uh, that they have, because they have to. Otherwise, they have to say that those people are wrong. I did once consider, have you ever considered that you might be God in a human body? What if God was one of us? I thought about that. Um, when I was studying the Gnostics teach that each one of us come from the Pleroma, and we are a divine spark, a piece of God. But then as I start to come to understand Hermetics, I came to realize that God, if there is a God, that God can never not know it is God. It will always know it was God, and it has to be completely God in its fullness. So if I was God in human form, I would know that I was God, and I would know all things. I would be omniscient and omnipotent. I would know all things. So I am not God in human form. No one is God in human form, because God can never not be less than itself. It has to be its full self, its total self, its complete self. Now I'm finna get Atlanta on you a little bit. Hold on, Shouty. Hold on, Shouty. Ain't nobody scared to answer nothing here, Shouty. Go on about that nonsense now. Now I choose whether I'm gonna answer because I got a lot of people throwing stuff up. Right, that 444,000 will be 12,000 from the 12 tribes of Israel. Man, that blood has been so diluted, ain't don't nobody know who is who. Plus, y'all don't want me to be God. George said you could create if you are God. Y'all don't want me to be God. It'll be a lot of great stuff, but some of y'all gonna be mad. Some of y'all be mad. I used to argue this point, Casey, and trust me, Baptist people cannot stand this. Baptist people cannot stand this. Uh, Something people don't realize is that when Jesus returned, he isn't ending sin. Jesus is supposed to end sin in the third coming. So, all these bugs flying out. So he will return, change Satan, and then release Satan again for again, and then for him to, he didn't get the rest of what you were saying. But a lot of Baptist people hated me for asking this question when I was a Baptist, right? Because when you read Revelations and you look at the Bible, then this Jesus is supposed to come, and if you believe in the rapture, he's supposed to come, rapture up the people. Then Satan is supposed to be loose on the planet for a while, and then he's supposed to come back and rapture up the people. Then to cast Satan into this prison, and there's supposed to be this 1,000-year reign with Jesus on earth, and then Satan gets out, and then he fights Satan in Armageddon, and then Satan and his little imps get cast into this lake of fire. And only Satan and his people are supposed to get cast into this lake of fire, and his little demons. Nobody else doesn't speak about other people getting thrown in there. But I always found that to be stupid. Why are you gonna come back here and then let that dude run around for 1,000 years? And then I realized that it's not Satan. When I learned that Satan and the beast to which it speaks of, they are not one and the same being. Those are two separately, completely different beings. And Lucifer and the serpent are not part of that being either. Right? Those are all different. The Satan is just a person who's an administrator over earth, who is an adversary uh, in the Hebraic, but in the Sumerian, it's just the administrator over the earth. But it's not the same being. You see, that doesn't make any sense, Ali. The point of being God in human form would be to forget that you are God. God could never not know itself to be God, because then he would be less than himself if he knew, if he forgot that he was God. There was a movie that did something like that. I can't think about what the name of the movie was. So that would go against the wholeness of God if there was a God. Um, I know y'all got a lot of stuff popping up at the same time. Y'all may not be able to see everybody, but I got people on Facebook and TikTok who are popping up in their comments. I keep checking TikTok, but nobody's asking anything or stating anything. Texas Goddess, Grand Rising. You notice that it is not the poor people who are pursued for Christian conversion, not the rich. That it is the poor people who are pursued and not the rich, because the rich, they obviously have God. Your thoughts? According to actually Christian teachings, you will know if a person is righteous according to their wealth. We went over this many times in other videos uh, when we did talk about the rich young ruler and the fact that everybody, all the patriarchs, are wealthy as hell, and even in the Job story. But they continue to go after poor people, and they convince poor people that the reason why you are poor is because you haven't been faithful to this God, and you need to give your money. So it's a money scam. But it's also harder to get rich people to realize that they may need some God when they are living a great life financially and have access to things that most other people don't have access to. But poor people are easier to convert over. Okay, so you ran out of space. But that showed that God is willing to allow the sin to reign. He looses Satan to deceive the nations, then saves them. As Paul said, God's planned this before the foundations of the world. Uh, One, I already explained how Satan is not what Christians make Satan out to be in the Bible. That is talking about the beast, which is a totally different being. But also, if that was God's plan, then God is a poor planner, and God is even more evil, that he would set up a situation where he willingly knows that people are going to fail and end up in this eternal damnation, instead of making it where people just can see him, know him, and then believe in him. Instead, we have to assume that he is true and real, even though he's a genocidal, narcissistic maniac. As a human, I could come up with a better plan. I know you. All these bugs. Leslie Ann, you crazy. Leslie Ann said, when they talk about Jesus coming back, it makes me think about all the deadbeat dads that just went out for some cigarettes 25 years ago, but they'll be back. That's about right. Look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Jesus ain't coming back. Jesus ain't coming back. People been waiting on Jesus for over 2,000 years, for almost 2,000 years. I don't say over. We ain't got to 2033 yet. Well, actually, technically, it'll be 2032. But Jesus ain't coming back. Jesus is not coming back. Jesus will never come back because the Jesus of the Bible never existed. And people been claiming he's gonna come back, and every time disappointed. Right. Echo said you got to be here in the first place to come back. Exactly. Brian said he's not a boomerang. Right. The biblical Jesus would have had to existed in order for him to come back. The events that occurred would have to have happened in order for this Jesus to come back. There is absolutely zero proof of his biblical existence, and there is absolutely zero proof of any other things that will make him this whole Son of God, died on the cross and crucified and rose from the dead, that he would ever come back. They can't even get his birthright. Between Luke and Matthew, the math don't math. The math don't math at all, because the census that was done by Quirinius, y'all know who I'm talking about, happened in 6 CE. Herod died no later than 4 BCE. So there is absolutely no way Jesus could have been born during the census, but running from Herod. It don't work. The math ain't math. The math ain't. A guy asked me this that last week. What was the turning point? There was no. I can't pick out this one major turning point because I was vacillating between the love of my family, the love of the people that I was around, the friends that I had, and all these kinds of things. So it was like I was out of it, but still participating in it. So literally, if you want to say what made me at that defining point is when I got divorced from my kid's mom, and then through that divorce, many of my family, well, not my family, but many of my friend connections that I considered family were broken. Of course, the church people, that was broken. All those people that I truly loved, that was all broken. So once I got free of that situation, then I was allowed to be free. I allowed myself to be totally free. So that would be the point. And they don't want to admit this, that there's more evidence to refute the Jesus existence, the biblical Jesus existence, than there is to prove it, because there is actually very little evidence that would ever prove that this Jesus actually existed. Then where is the story of Barnabas? Why isn't the Gospel of Barnabas part of your Bible? When did Barnabas didn't die on the cross? And if there are two separate beings, one is the Son of God and the other one is the King of the Jews, where's your Jesus, King, Son of God? Where yet? There's no proof of that. Those are all still stories. Even the whole Barnabas thing of him being in prison, and then the Jews calling for him to be freed and Jesus not to be. The No, just because both of them had Yashu in their name doesn't make them the same being. Barnabas was a person, according to this story, who was saying, "Hell no! The way that the Messiah is supposed to come is as a conquering hero and not some pacifist talking about the kingdom is later. Jesus is like Seeley. Jesus is Seeley. Don't worry about today, because tomorrow come, we all be in heaven, and this don't matter. Or however that line go. Grand Rising Crimson. Interesting. The nail in the coffin for me was when my sister and I met with a college professor and scholar of religion, of antiquity, when he said, "You can't take the Bible literally." Boom. That was it. So that was Texas Goddess when she left. That was her defining moment. Hmm. That's an interesting thing. Would anybody like to come on and talk about their defining moment of when they walked away from this religion? If you'd like to come and tell your story, what happens after humans die and leave the earth? I have no idea. All I can say is that you are energy. Your consciousness is a complex energy, and it will continue to live on and transmute into some other form. Most likely, whatever you believe the most is what it would be. All right, let me get the code real quick. All right, so this is the code. If you want to come up and tell your story, I'm gonna let you do it one at a time. First come, first serve. All right, can y'all still hear me? Because I have to take my microphone out. Wait a minute. Man, make sure the speaker's up loud. Oh, let's see. So click on that link and make sure your phone is good. I forgot who that was whose phone was all jacked up last week. All right, first up the bat.
Oh, hold on. Let me switch this over to my AirPod real quick. It says this on my AirPod. Can you hear me though, Coach?
I can hear you.
Oh, well, I guess we're gonna have to rock it the way it is. I'm not sure what's going on.
Actually, I'm gonna bring Echo up too, but Crimson, you're gonna tell us your story first.
All right. So for me, everything that started the question on, I was in elementary school and learning, just general basics, good versus evil, good versus bad, etc. Um, for me, the biggest question that I didn't understand is I think I mentioned this on one of the previous lives is I didn't understand how a all powerful, all knowing God will create something to willingly oppose it.
Uh-huh.
That within itself started a contradiction for me. And then it started to spiral from there, understanding the background of what happened in Genesis, learning about other different myths and mythologies like Greek, like Norse, like Sumerian, like Egyptian, seeing
Mm-hmm.
how they all correlate, how they can all come from a similar background, and just realizing that this is all human stories to further explain the unknown or to explain the human ignorance. And once I understood that, I was like, okay, I understand the purpose of religion.
Right.
However, nobody was ever able to really justifiably explain the contradiction of God creating Satan, an adversary. If this is an all powerful, all knowing, all good God. As far as
Right.
the Gnostic Gospels, Renee, I see the Gnostic Gospels as far as God being the demiurge, or the God of the Bible truly being the demiurge, or a negative being in all of the material existence, being evil within its own nature. Um, I can see why that got stumped out of the church, or why Gnostic Christians got stumped out in general. Um, However, still, at the end of the day, this is all man's way of explaining the unknown.
Right.
And that's how I view religion.
So how old were you when you how old were you and what was that final nail in the coffin?
Final nail in the coffin, this was back in 2020.
Okay.
I had already had my, I split it from the church way before then, but I was still participating and trying to understand the faith. But I was 25 in 2020, and
Hmm.
I took a trip out to Huntsville. Well, I didn't take a trip. My job sent me out to Huntsville, and while I was out there in my hotel, I just kept constantly searching and doing more research and stuff like that. And I think the final nail in the coffin was realizing why the church created hell. I think that's what really did it for me.
Right.
Um, Knowing that fear, to me personally, fear is the strongest weapon on the planet. If I can install fear in you, I can get you to do anything that I want you to do. And to me, that perfectly explains why the church created hell to begin with, or why the church had to create a big bad entity, as in Satan or the devil or Lucifer. And once that fear, that sense of fear, really cemented in my brain, that's why I was like, okay, I understand. This religion isn't for me, or religion in general isn't for me.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Understood. Appreciate that. And one last thing before you go. Did you start uploading videos yet?
No, sir. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been bogged down with work. Work has gotten even worse. I'm doing work after hours since I'm salary now. But
I
ain't
see.
no excuses. That's on me. That's on me. Please do not.
You know exactly what I was going to say.
Please do not hold my feet to the fire, Coach.
All
But
right.
I
Get,
got you. I got you. You will be the first
get your
person to
ass
know when I
started.
do upload.
All right.
All
Appreciate
right,
you, man. And
for
we're going to
sure.
hear from Echo. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, Echo. Let me unmute you. But before you
Hey,
say something, Echo, before you
yeah,
say something, because people who donate to the channel, I always want to give them that respect. So, Ravina, appreciate the donation to the channel. She said that I'm guessing Ravina is a woman. Then she never believed. Does that mean that I was born the Omen, aka Damien, in girl form? No, that is. I'm gonna say this. That means that you were born with your eyes with your eye wide open. Prince said that in a song, "In Age of Innocence," in the song "Way Back Home." It's a song called "Way Back Home." He said he was born with his eye open. That just means your eye were open when you was born, and you realized at an early age you wasn't for the bullshit. All right. So Echo Bullet.
yeah. How's everybody? How are you doing tonight?
All right.
I missed the beginning of the show. You there? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, all right. I had to step outside. I know my one dog was gonna freak out. There he goes. Can you hear him in the background? Yeah. My realization was a process really. Um, well, my grandfather was a Christian minister, so I always had the church in my family, but he wasn't the best person, right? Like he did some bad things to my grandmother, and turned out that he was homosexual behind the scenes. So
Mm,
that brought me into being a bit confused on back then. In the day there was no homosexuality allowed in the church. Like that was shunned upon, right? Like as
right.
you said earlier about them taking that out of the church or out of the Bible. um,
Just the Canadian Bible, and I think you're
yeah,
Canadian,
in the
right?
Canadian, and I'm Canadian, so but yeah,
Yeah, called the
they
flag.
them dealing with that. So I grew up with them with thinking that, of course, that was wrong, and then finding out my grandfather that was the breaking point of the marriage was my grandmother finding out that that's what he was doing, and then he would leave, and then he married another woman that looked very similar to my grandmother. She caught him. He would leave her, married another woman that looked very similar, same first name. He married three Shirleys and never divorced any of them. So he was a bigamist and a homosexual. So I was pretty confused on how the church would allow that type of man to be their representative, right? And then as I got a little older, I'm like, well, I think I should be in church. Just because that guy was a clown doesn't mean that everybody's a clown. Maybe I should go to church. So I joined a group, a Christian Nazareth group that was in my area. And I started going to church and studying the Bible. And I really enjoyed it. And I was the kid who went around preaching Jesus, going, "Hey, look at this, look at this. He's the savior. You got to join God, join Jesus." And then I was probably 13 when it dawned on me that all these bad guys, all they got to do is praise the Lord and they can join Jesus and then go to heaven. I got to share my heaven with my grandfather. I got to share my heaven with all these bad people. That's not heaven. That's not a good place to be at. So I started to explore other religions, and I looked into Judaism, and they said something about having to read Hebrew to be able to join. And I'm like, I ain't learning fucking Hebrew. That ain't happening. I'm not doing that. So I didn't even bother doing much effort on that. And then I found out about Islam, and that kind of made good sense to me at the beginning, because right in the beginning chapters, it says, you don't have to, he said, let the Christians do what they want, the Jews do what they want, let everybody do what they want. As long as you believe that there is a God, you're going to have your judgment day. I said, well, that makes sense. He said, you don't have to pray, you don't have to do all the acts that they say you're supposed to do, that a normal Muslim would do. All you got to do is believe in a God, and you're gonna have a judgment day. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense. I just need to be judged. As long as I'm good, I'll go to heaven. Well, then I got further in the book, and it's like, and it gets pretty dirty. And I was like, no, I can't deal with this. Like they got too much wrong in the book, like too many bad acts in the book. So, and then it just realizing that all of these religions pointed to the same conclusion, that it was about the same thing as the other gentleman just said. It's about fear. It's about instilling fear into the masses, and it's about control. So it's basically, it's a form of government, because then you start giving your tariffs or whatever it's called. You give your 10%. Like, that's your taxes. Like, that's just you go to the church and give them your meat and everything else, a portion of your earnings. That's your taxes. That's what turned into taxes. So like, the Bible's just a government. So and I was out. I was out. So it was probably about 19, no, about 17, 18 when I finally just quit all religion and just said that this doesn't make sense. You know, Gnosticism makes a little more sense, but that doesn't make bloody sense either. So that was it for
No,
me.
I understand that. And there was a guy who I was on ship with when we were not on ship when I was stationed in Germany with. When he found out, when we lived in Germany, that Hitler was Christian, and that based on the Christian doctrine he would go to heaven.
Yeah,
he was out. That was one of the things that made him say, like, I'm not doing this. That's some bullshit. But I understand. I appreciate you.
All right, no worries, no worries. Thanks for letting me on.
Thank you for always being here.
All right, no worries, no worries. Have a great day,
All right, you
everybody.
too.
Take care.
All right, we got Mr. Eric Watson. I like that name.
Thank you.
Eric Watson.
So my defining moment was, I actually had two. It started when I was 11 years old. I had my leg amputated because of bone cancer, and every time I would go to the hospital, it was a kid died from cancer, some type of cancer, and my mom would bring the preacher into the room every time I had to take chemotherapy and radiation and pray over me. And I remember the preacher saying, uh, "The Lord take care of babies and fools." And in my head at 11 years old, I'm in my head like, well, why ain't he taking care of all these kids that's dying? Why all these kids dying? So that was one moment. The second moment is when I was much older, and we lived in a place called Chesterfield, Virginia, and it was prejudice. It was really, really prejudice. But you would hear all the white people around there talking about, God this, God that, Jesus this, Jesus that. But they were the same ones.
Eric,
Yes, sir.
do me a favor. Can you turn the TV down?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You would always hear,
All right,
you would always hear the white people around there preaching the Lord's word, this, that, and the third. But they were the same people that would walk up to you and call you, excuse me for saying this, but they had quite a few words. One was yard ape, ink spot, nigga, uh,
right.
all that. And I'm like, well, this religion can't be for black people. This has got to be some type of white man religion. And the more I thought about it, the more me and my brother started going to the library and started reading up on the Christian Bible. And we looked at Maccabees, we looked at the Book of Enoch, uh, and we seen that none of that stuff matched up. None of it made sense, and there was a lot of contradictions and over exaggerations and lies. And that's when I just said, I'm done with it. None of this makes sense, and it's a false religion, and it's made, like Dudu was saying earlier, it was made to control people's mind and keep them in a state of ignorance.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of people don't realize, because I'm guessing you're closer to my age,
yeah.
the power of that damn library back in the day.
Oh man.
When
Oh
you
man.
really went to the library, and if you had good librarians, and for me it was a lot of the homeless guys that would hang out in the library because
Hmm.
they ain't got nothing to do but study and read.
And they was the sharpest ones.
They will tell you, they will lead you all in the right direction of, you want to understand this, go read that. You want to understand this, go read that. After you read this, go read that. But I'm with you. That damn library is one of those things that I started going to when I was 9 years old, and it's just so much information that you would never get in the church. You would never get from your parents and all these other so-called leaders in the community, because now you're able to read
Hmm.
all the material that
Hmm.
is hidden from you. Well,
Hmm.
the old saying is, if you want to hide some information, hide it in a book.
Put it in plain sight.
Put it in plain sight. And going to the library was a big mover,
Yes,
because
sir.
especially back then, the internet is just as helpful if you know how to use it.
If you know how to use it.
If you,
I say a lot of things about the internet, but I really think the internet, like you just said, it's a good tool if you know how to use it, but people don't consider the internet a tool. They consider it fact these days. You could go to Google and Google anything, and people will think that's fact, and it's not fact. You have to use your own common sense to
Mhm.
interpret what it's saying. You can't just read it and take it in for what it's saying. You take in what you need to take in, and you let all the other stuff go. You have to use your common sense when it comes to researching and learning things. You can't
And
just take everything somebody says and make it a fact.
let me tell you a trick that they now pulled on the internet. Back when the internet first started, when Google first came out, right?
Hmm.
If you were to ask a question like, who wrote Genesis, right?
Hmm.
Back then, when it first came out, you had page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. Yep.
And there was a lot of things on page one that was Christian oriented. You got gotanswers.org, or those kind of things, Christian documentation.
Hmm.
But you can go to page, I would skip to page 7, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm getting doctoral theses, I'm getting all these sorts of things, right?
Hmm.
Now with the internet, if you type in those types of questions, you only get the Christian response from apologist page or some Christian organization, unless you word the question in such a way that it forces the internet to give you something else. Like in a
Yep.
lot of my um, Google searches, if I would, when I ask that question, who wrote Genesis, I might put .edu at the end,
Hmm.
or I would put who wrote Genesis PhD papers or something like that, so that it brings those things up. So it brought me back to how we used to do it, how we did it in the library.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
have a choice to go to what type of source you wanted to. Google
Exactly.
will only give you these primary sources that are seeming to come from Christians, and then next thing you know, you starting to say, well, damn, it keeps saying that it's this person, that is Moses, that is Moses, that is Moses. But then when you go to a EDU, or you go to a PhD paper or an archaeological paper, I'll put archaeology in there as well. Now I'm getting this
Different
person
sources.
who wrote their doctoral thesis at the University of Cambridge, and they're breaking down, and you can download the PDF, and now they're breaking down the whole thing about who actually wrote it, the time frame
Yep.
that it was written, Proto-Hebraic, how when that was out, when it switched to Biblical Hebrew, and so you then get that good picture, and you start to see the information beyond the doctrine that they're trying to push on you.
And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna let somebody else get in because I know you got a lot of people trying to get in. I'm gonna say this: a lot of people don't do fact checking. A lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people just ignore the fact that you need to go further, and I like you were just saying, further than what you just read the first time, because Google is based on algorithms. So if you go in and you
Mm-hmm.
text who is God, it's going to give you the Christian's version of that answer because that's a question typically asked by Christians. You know,
Yes.
so it's just based on algorithms. It's based on who asks the questions and who's more in tune to understand it based on who's asking. But
Mm-hmm.
you're asking, you're just not a Christian. So it's I don't know, man. That
Yeah.
Google
I
make
mean,
a lot of people lazy, man.
I'm with you, and that's exactly how it works. The algorithm works such. If I'm a Christian, I click on it, and I ask that question. Well, it's going to give me 10, 12 different ones that are from Christian sources. I'm going
Exactly.
to click on those. And because I clicked on those, Google algorithm said those are the ones that people want to read about.
Exactly.
But because they're not going into who is writing against their ideology, it doesn't bring those up. So I have to I keep asking deeper questions into it. That's why I always say the quality of the question is going to determine the quality of the answer that you get back.
I agree
And I
wholeheartedly,
don't
man.
want an apologist answer. I
I
need
agree.
somebody else. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Coach, thanks for letting me come on, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Hey, it's great to see your face. I appreciate you.
Likewise, my man.
All right.
All right.
I put the thing out there again. If anybody else want to come in and tell their story of their conversion or deconstruction and what that pivotal moment was, and like when they did that. Boy, I tell you, it's the only thing. I'd rather take these bugs than the heat, though. These bugs are getting on my nerves, but the heat is why we doing this later in the evening. And exactly, Leslie. People don't fact check. They're mostly looking for their own confirmation. And when I did like the videos I did today, one of the ones I had to do a little bit more research on, which was when did Ethiopian Jews, um, when that it was about when did Ethiopian Jews become a thing, right? And I really had to dig deep into the internet to find it, and I had to click on a whole bunch of other links to get to some of the more real information about when they came on, because the initial information would talk about Solomon and Queen Candace, and or talk about the eunuch that came. But as far as it getting deeper into the fact that there's no archaeological evidence that says that shows that they were in the Simeon Mountains, that they never conquered Axiom under Queen Judith, um, and that the first mentioning of Jews in Ethiopia was actually by Marco Polo. Now, just because I'm telling y'all this, don't mean you ain't supposed to go watch that video. Go watch the video. But it took a lot of deeper research in order to find it. It literally took me, I mean, it took me like an hour to make that video, but I spent 45 minutes of it researching so that I can find the most accurate information that has some type of proof that there were Jews in Ethiopia during the time frame of Solomon or any other time frame. There were theories out there that they possibly came after the first temple when it was destroyed during the Babylonians, but of course there's no archaeological proof of that. So you really got to dig deeper into your search, and actually one of the things I found that gave me the most information was a paper that was written by a scholar who was at the University of Cairo. Uh, that one, and that's the one that actually talked about Marco Polo and this other guy first mentioning Jews in Ethiopia in their travels. And then I went and researched Marco Polo, because we all think of Marco Polo as far as going to Asia. I never knew that Marco Polo went to Axiom, to Ethiopia, until I was reading. Then I had to go check and verify, did he actually go there? According to his diary, according to other people who traveled with him, he actually went to Ethiopia. So it's like I fact check the fact check. And that's the only way you can do it. That's the only way you should do it. When you just take the surface information, then that's all you're ever going to have is just that surface information. And it could be completely wrong because although I do love Wikipedia because Wikipedia is a good start, and then I go and I check the references of Wikipedia, and then I check a lot of the links that Wikipedia put on there as the different people who said what, and then go and fact check those arguments as well. So it's a good start, but I see many people just, I can tell when somebody is responding to me and all they've done is read the Wikipedia page and they haven't delved deeper to fact check whether or not the Wikipedia page is correct or not, because you have to remember Wikipedia and Quorum are just written by regular old people. You know, you say, Crimson said if they did try to fact check, they use their Bible as a factual source to prove the Bible, which is completely wrong. The if you wanted to prove, see, this is why even when I was looking at Marco Polo, I had to fact check Marco Polo because I can't accept Marco Polo's journal as being the only source of where Marco Polo went. You have to check other sources. Sure, you can join, and hopefully your whisper can be heard. Did you see the link? I'll post it again. Oh, wait a minute. While we're waiting on Casey, where was, I think you mean, oh, was there a diaspora from Israel in 700 BC? Is that fact? 700 BC, you had a diaspora of northern Israelites in the 700s BCE, because you have to understand that King Sennacherib of Assyria, and this is according to the Bible, and but more importantly, what is written in the city that starts with an N. Shit. I should remember this. Richest man in Babylon. His son went to this city. I can't think of the name of the damn city. But according to Sennacherib, as well as according to the Bible, with Hezekiah, Nineveh. Thank you, George. Um, Sennacherib conquered the majority of northern Israel. And in conquering those, he took the people, or he left people out and bare nothingness. But he did take a lot of those people into the Assyrian kingdom, which was a common practice back then, to take the best quality people of a conquered city, and make them a part of your city, so that you can have a better city. Kind of like how America will easily let somebody come in who got degrees, but yeah, you're non-degree people, we don't like you too much. So there were some northern Israelites who were captured into the Assyrian Empire, but as far as going into other places, not so much. The southern Judahite kingdom was pretty secure because they were in a mountainous area, and that was more difficult um, to take. You know what? I'm gonna watch it. I couldn't remember the title, and I was trying to watch it the other day, and I couldn't remember the title. So I'm gonna. I know you wrote it on there, so I'm gonna watch it. Casey, did you see the link? I posted the link. If you click on that link, you should be able to come up. It should be 2 comments above, right above Crimson on YouTube. Yeah, I know one of the cities that the eclipse passed through was Nineveh, and it don't mean nothing. There are so many cities in America that are named after biblical cities. Don't me. I'm gonna watch it. The devil's, what is it? Satan's guidebook to the Bible. I'm gonna watch that thing. But Casey, I gave you the link. Click on the link. Jesus, Matthew 24, failed prophecy. Matthew and John, conflicting resurrection stories. God feeling threatened by people climbing the sky to reach him. And God placing a rainbow with rain when rain all fuel my deconversion. And that can. So what Casey is talking about, because I'm going to pick on Casey. Casey don't seem to be able to click on the link, but he said he had to whisper because he's in a house full of Christians. But that is true. When you look at the comparison of the four gospels of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, you get conflicting stories as far as who is there and who is not there. There was an earthquake. There wasn't an earthquake. The stone was moved, and there was an angel sitting on top of the stone. There was an angel sitting on the inside. There was one at the end of the bench. There was one not at the end of the bench. There's all kind of conflicting things. Do they go to Bethany? Do they go to Galilee? Or do they stay there in Jerusalem? There's so many conflicting things as far as the resurrection. Peter was running by himself. No, Peter was running, but a young man ran ahead of Peter. So there's too many conflicting stories when it comes to the resurrection, right? And then this God feeling threatened when people climb to the highest mountain. Try to build the Tower of Babel. And it says that they all spoke the same language, but yet it talks about the children of, I believe, Josephat. His kids already spoke different languages. So the whole world wasn't speaking the same language. But then it get threatened because they may be able to do whatever they want to do or can accomplish anything. So let me destroy them and create confusion. But if you went on a construction site today, you can find people who speak Spanish and people who speak English. They can't communicate, but they can sure get that damn house built. So it's a bullshit story anyway. You know, all of them. And God creating the rainbow. The rainbow is stupid because even if he was misting the world every day, there would still be rainbows. You would still have seen a rainbow. It does not take rain to see a rainbow. Have you ever been near a waterfall? Guess what you see at pretty much most waterfalls at certain parts of the day? A freaking rainbow. Go ahead and post the link for all our benefit. Go ahead and post a link to the video in the comments. Now, you're only going to be able to see that on YouTube for all my Facebook people. But I'll copy. Yeah, you post a link, and I think I should be able to copy and post a link so that everybody can see that link on Facebook and YouTube. And this was another thing. I learned this early on too, when I was probably about 23, 24, that what Eric is saying, that you have to consider none of these books was actually written by the people. Um, he said it was written, than the people that they say it was written by. And so there's a bunch of conflicting stories. When I realized that books like Deuteronomy was written over a few hundred years and then edited, Genesis written over a few hundred years and edited, it was like, okay, these people are not all speaking with the same voice. These people are speaking from political backgrounds, from different types of society, whether they were conquered by the Babylonians or being accosted by the Assyrians or the Chaldeans. So they're writing this with a wholly different perspectives and with different agendas. But the more and more you study, the more and more you read this with a critical mind, the more and more you walk away from this book. I'm pretty sure Crimson is just going to look for the link right now. And as soon as he get back, he'll. But Maestro, you're absolutely correct. It's fast, and Maestro said it's fascinating how easily manipulated religious people are, that they think there was never a rainbow prior to their imaginary flood. So this imaginary flood is supposed to have happened in the Bible account in around 4,400 BCE. Now, prior to that, other civilizations talked about rain, Other civilizations would have seen rainbows before because other civilizations had waterfalls. And if this guy was misting the earth, you would have seen rainbows in the mist. But people will refuse to believe that because they have to hold on to this book because they want to go to heaven and not go to hell. It is fear based. Loon said, "What sites are good for educating yourself about the Bible?" So, um, I seem to get a lot of my lately. I've been getting, and I don't know why. There's a lot of them out there, but from the Cambridge School of Theology, there are a lot of doctoral theses that are coming out of the um, Cambridge Theology department right now, as well as Yale. You can a lot of doctoral theses are coming out of Yale as well. I don't know if there's some boom in religious studies or people getting their PhD, but there's a lot of them coming there. Basically, whenever you search for something, slap edu or .org within your question, and then you just evaluate each one to see whether or not it's a page that's archaeology. You say the link isn't working, and if to see if it's a society of archaeologists. Okay, try it again, Texas Goddess. If it and let me know if it doesn't work. If it don't, I'll recopy it and see if that'll help it. Let me just go ahead and copy it again anyway. I'll just do it. I'll copy it again and post it. It's the same. Oh, there you go. All right, Texas Goddess.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Ah! Hey, everybody, it's Texas Goddess. Um, like I was saying, um, I met with a scholar because I mean I had been seeking for years and years, and I came out of a denomination called the Churches of Christ, and we believed that you had to believe exactly like the people of Churches of Christ, or you were going to hell. And so it didn't matter whether you were Methodist, whether you were Baptist, it didn't matter. We were the true Christians because we followed the Bible exactly the way, I mean, that's what was said. And over time, I realized that we kind of really weren't. And so I decided to Google what other people were saying about the Churches of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a shock. And it was also true what they were saying. And so it just made me think because I was using critical thinking skills or critical researching skills and not just researching what I had always been told, but looking at it from somebody else's perspective. And so that really made a difference for me. That just took me down a deeper rabbit hole. People were talking about us. It really did sting, but it's what I needed. And so I just continued and continued. And now, I am where I am. But I would say my complete deconstruction process was probably over a 10-year period.
Yeah,
I
and I can
also,
understand that.
yeah, go ahead. I mean, I was just saying it was over a period of time that I continued to question, and then I left the Churches of Christ and I went to the organic church, and that the organic church was non-denominational, non-institutional, and so there was no quote unquote leader. We met in homes. There was no, like, you didn't have to give. I mean, we gave out of our hearts, and typically the money that we collected went toward other members of the group who needed things. And so
Right.
that resonated with me, and that just made sense to me. And if you couldn't make church, if you were too tired that week, you just text somebody and say, hey, I had a rough week and I'll see y'all next week. And there was no guilt trip or anything like that. And so I could appreciate, you know, the book was called Pagan Christianity, by Frank. I can't think of the name, but that book just took me down, because it talked about how the roots of Christianity, roots of Christianity came out of paganism. And
Right.
so, I mean, it was just amazing. And all the things that I was having a problem with, it addressed everything. Like the preacher, there was no such thing as a preacher preaching to the saved. There was no such thing. You know, how the money is used, how 80% of the church's money goes toward the church and salaries. That just, I'm like, oh no, I'm working hard every day, and my money is going to support somebody who's up under a church roof and not having to deal with these demons that I got to deal with at work. That
Mm-hmm.
just didn't sit well with me. And then you're going to pay somebody to be a youth pastor, and the kids are in school all day. It's like, how is that? How is this person getting a full-time salary for a job where they don't even have access to the children? What is that? So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
And what was the name of that book again?
The book is called Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola.
Okay. So I
And
want to
that,
make sure everybody heard that one.
oh my goodness, that, and I would tell other people about it when they read it. I mean, I was just gone. And that church, that book led me, Pagan Christianity led me to the organic church. And that's where, it was non-denominational and non-institutional. And so it
Right.
wasn't just a house church. I wasn't looking for a whole an institution, a church under a house roof. That wasn't what I was looking for. And
I'm with.
so I'm sorry.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was a really good experience. I'm glad that, and after that, that just kind of, I just continued to free myself along the way, and that was the last of that. I just decided, it's too, it became too rigid. I'm like, okay, we're supposed to be free, and it just became, rules started to become too much. And I'm like, if I have all these rules up in here, then I can be with my friends and family and go to the church that I came from. And but one of the things that made it difficult to deconstruct, and I know that's not the point, but I wanted to share, um, that it was really hard because all of my family and friends, just like many other people,
Yeah.
your entire life, my entire life. And so I just didn't know how I would be able to do it. And a close family friend left the church as well, left religion, and he just totally started a new friend group. And I saw his life, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to leave everything that I knew. I was like, am I going to have to move to another country? I just couldn't get that in my head. But when I finally, got the balls to leave, once I met with that scholar, and he finally said, you can't take it literally. And it just popped. I'm like, that just, everything makes sense now. It makes sense. And that was it. That was it. That was the nail in the coffin. And I never turned back. And I've been living a free life ever since. And I have other family members who've come along as well. And we might not all be in the same place, but it's just, we're all kind of loosening up, and I've been able to share a lot of my viewpoints with my family, and it's really helped them because they've been able to open up and be more free in sharing their thoughts and their, the fact that they don't believe like they used to either.
Now, were you part of the Kojic? Now, I think it's Kojic, right? That Pearson Carson was part of.
I don't think, no, I don't, no, I don't think that's the one. Just regular Church of Christ that came out of, I think it came out of the Christian church, but it's no musical instruments.
Oh, okay, now he was that must be Pentecostal that he was part of then.
yeah. No musical instruments. Women keep silent in the church. 3 days a week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. Um, those were the hallmarks, and that we were the only Christians. So we didn't even associate or affiliate with other denominations because we were taught that we were the only true Christians. And so that made us different from all the rest of the Christians because we
Yeah.
didn't even consider, they weren't Christians. We were the only ones. So it was just, oh my goodness. So
No,
yeah.
I understand. There was a funny thing when I was in junior high, and yeah, junior high. There was a girl named Francesca Jones. I thought she was gorgeous. I wanted to date her, but she was part of the Kojic Church in Marietta, Georgia,
Ah, ah.
and she wouldn't date me because I wasn't part of her church.
See.
And when I showed up at her door one time, because she lived like
Oh,
around the block from me,
oh
parents cursed me out
no. Oh,
nicely. They cursed me out
yeah,
nicely. It was
yeah.
like, you got to join the Kojic Church if you ever think you want to date my daughter.
Yeah, and that's pretty much kind of, it was shunned. I mean,
Mhm.
you marry within the Church of Christ, and that was just what it was. And it's such a small sect. It's such a small group of people. There were so many single women, and a lot of women decided to marry outside of that, and it was like that was kind of frowned upon. And also, divorce was very strict. You could not divorce your partner unless they committed adultery, meaning
Right.
penetration, meaning going outside of, having an affair. And so nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if you were abandoned. It doesn't matter if that person was beating on you. Not saying that they would encourage you to stay and get beat up on, but you just couldn't, you didn't have the right to remarry because you did not divorce um, because of adultery. So it was a very legalistic type teaching, and
Oh,
that became a problem because if everything is black and white, then you eventually bump up against the wall. For example, God made, the thing was God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And so that was and so my thing later on was, okay, yeah, God made Adam, Eve, Taylor, and Jordan too. They're people who are intersex. What about those people? They have both sexual organs. They're both male and female. So what do we say about that? So we cannot look at it as literal, because when you do, there's always gonna be exceptions.
yeah. And then a whole lot of things go on in those tight knit cult like churches, because like the biggest church in that I grew up around that was Kojic, um, they disbanded because it finally came out that the pastor had been having sex with all these little girls,
Uh, uh,
and many of them had become adults. Many of them had married other
mm,
people in the church. And when all of that stuff came out in the late 90s,
mm.
that entire church got disbanded because here this guy, he married this girl, and then come find out that the pastor had slept with her when she was a kid,
Oh,
and this man been sitting under this pastor,
yep.
and that was like 30 or 40 dudes that had experienced that. And because the town I grew in was, it's bigger now, but we still kind of, the main families that was there back in the day, everybody still know everybody, so that just went all over town, even though it's like a suburb of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But it just destroyed that entire church, and it destroyed a whole bunch of people's lives, because he also found out he was sleeping with other men, grown men wives.
Oh,
And but because they follow the legalistic parts of the Bible, like we discussed today, that there has to be two witnesses in order for a claim to be validated, and those witnesses can't be a woman. This man was able to do this for decades
yeah.
before anybody ever found out.
Yeah. And I can say, I can say that being a part of that group of people for the majority of my life, since childhood and everything, I had some wonderful experiences. I had some, people I loved, I still love, and I will always love. And I just I have to go my own road. I have to live for me. I was not put on this earth to run my parents' program, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And at some point you have to decide that for yourself, that, why are you here? Well, I know why I'm not here. I'm not here to do, to run somebody else's program. And religion was brought to me. That was taught to me. I didn't decide. I didn't have any kind of authority in my life like that. I had to do what my parents, wanted me to do. So that's how I ended up in it. And like I said, I met some wonderful people. But I'm on a different journey right now.
No, I understand. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Mr. Donald.
Yes,
How you
sir.
doing?
Yes, sir. How you making out, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Late night on the porch. You still got daylight. Where you at?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's messed up. Get on them
Yes,
tapes.
sir. Las Vegas, man. Man, I ain't got no money.
So tell us about your what's your story, man? What led you to when and what led you to deconstructing Christianity?
So I'm still, learning how to navigate through this space, And I'm at a stage in my life where listening to you, listening to other um, individuals, like especially the brother Dan, that you put me on to,
Dan
the
McClellan?
gentleman Dan McCullen, yeah, and with the
Yeah,
data over dogma
right.
really opened me up, to just thinking differently, having a different perspective. One of the things that kind of led me to start to flow away from it was when my wife took me to this church, and so when I went to this church, we went in there and they were like praying in the spirit and all these different other things. And at the time, I was a massage therapist. So he said, "Well, you got gifted hands." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Well, when you get done, come back to my office." And I said, "Okay, no problem." So I went to his office. He says, "Man, look, what do you do?" And I told him I'm a massage therapist. He was like, "Well, you need to do something different. You need to get into insurance or something like that because those demons would jump up on you if you are continue to keep doing this type of work." And I was like, "What? This doesn't make any sense." And at that point, I was just like, "Oh, heck no, man. Come on, man." It was just weird, like it was just kept weirding me out, And I got to
Yeah,
the point where I was just like, I gotta step away from this. But you have helped me to navigate this much better through the videos, through the conversations, and just learning how to be not fearful. Because like people were saying, it's all fear based. And
yep,
so I grew up in fear, going to hell. Oh, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in this, if you don't do this right, if you don't do that right. And at times I used to get attacked at night, and she'd be like, "Well, the reason why you're getting attacked at night is because of the fact that you're not praying enough." And I was just like, "Wait a minute." So when I stopped all that stuff, I stopped all that everything and just finding facts, that's when I slept so clear at night. I was just like, I don't get attacked anymore. This is weird.
So when you say you was being attacked, how you mean like bad dreams attacked or physically
Yeah,
attacked?
yeah, like bad dreams attacked or something like touching me or something acting crazy on me. And it was just like, I just like, and it always happened like either after church or while I was in church or all these different other things, like, like after church, you go home and go to bed and stuff like that. And
Right.
once I stopped believing in that whole narrative, that's when everything was gone. It just dissipated.
See, now Christian would tell you that there were demons attacking you while you was at church because they were trying to win you over. But once they won you over,
Right.
they didn't have a need to attack you anymore. Instead of
Right.
just realizing that you're in this church and you're having these conflicting ideas and conflicting thoughts. And then when you go to sleep in your subconscious mind, those things get to reveal themselves even more to you. And so you got this battle that's being waged in your own mind. You know what I'm saying? And it's not something outside of you. This is just an internal battle that you were having. But once you satisfy it, they're going to go away, you know? So it's kind of like me with PTSD. The more and more I satisfy the issues of what happened and what I did and the results thereof, it becomes less and less and less and less and less that I have to deal with those issues. You see what I'm saying? So having once you solidify where you're going to be, yeah, you don't have those kinds of dreams anymore unless you go off and you do something stupid, you know, or you go deal with stupid people and you let their stupid mindsets intrude upon your mindset. Because that's like when he's talking about demons jumping on you, yeah, everybody carries an energy about them, right?
Right.
If if I'm really stressed out, like when you're massaging somebody who's really stressed out, you can, if you get into that person's stress and your mind starts to allow their stress to become your stress, then yeah, you can get stressed out. But that's not demons. That's their own stressed energy. They could be a Muslim, they could be Christian, they could be anything, but they might be going through some kind of issues in their life and they just carrying that negative energy. And you know, and like this is why, like, anytime I get ready to like give Angelina a massage or something, you know, I clear my hands, you know, I think good thoughts, and then I do my thing, you know. But then nothing comes off of that because her mind is already clear. You know what I'm saying? Her mind is already de-stressed. You know, she doesn't walk around in stress, so there's nothing to pull. You see what I'm saying? So when you're doing
Yeah.
massage, yeah, people can have negative energy about them, but that's just their energy. They ain't got nothing to do with some demons and some jumping off on you and all that. Because I would imagine the majority of people that you were massaging were Christians. So what demons jumping
It,
off them?
I don't know.
It just,
It,
yeah, he's probably jealous that you get to massage women and he don't.
it I mean, I'm just getting to the point where I'm not, like you always say, this is all a portion of your mind of how you think and what you think about. Now I'm gonna tell you something, and you might laugh at me. When I
I
eat
will.
when I eat chicken at nighttime,
Uh huh.
I be getting some crazy dreams eating chicken. I don't know what's up with that.
Mm. That's because your lymph system is too busy fighting all the toxins from that meat that you ate. So it doesn't have time to go in and revitalize your brain. So it's sending all that toxicity. It's trying to get rid of all that toxicity. So your body is in a negative state.
Oh,
You're not
okay.
metabolizing in your body at that time frame because that meat brings all that toxicity out. That's right. Because I don't tell people they got to be vegetarian, but the less and less meat you eat, the better you feel, the better you sleep. The better your mind is. Everything is better because your body gets to function in a more natural state. Because you're
Yeah.
feeding good stuff instead of all this
Yeah.
processed foods and all that meat.
Uh,
Look, ever since I went back to my non-vegetarian style of eating, which is recent, I've only recently done it, and because Angelina can cook and she was messing me up, I'm gonna blame her for all of it. Not like I couldn't walk away from it, but I'm gonna blame her for all of it, right? But I can say I did have more PTSD issues when I was eating that meat than since
wow.
this last like month, but this last like not even a whole month, like 15, 20 days that I haven't been eating nowhere near as much. Maybe like
Right.
one small bit, one small little piece of meat during the week is maybe all that I eat now. And
Mhm.
I haven't had one issue of PTSD, haven't had any uh my dreams are always crazy. Like last night, it was just weird. I was saving my family. We was on a vacation, and I was saving my family, and there was some military people trying to kill all of them. And
Oh wow.
Me and Tom Cruise was saving them. It was, but I kind of know where that dream came from. It's things that I did in the military that I can't tell you about, but
Right, I understand.
I know where it came from. So but my mind, most of my dreams are peaceful. They're a little weird, but I figured them out. But I don't wake up crazy. I don't pop up, swinging and all that kind of stuff. But when I was eating that meat, man, I wake up, I might be like yelling and all kind of stuff. So it plays a big
Oh
part.
yeah.
It plays a big part. So stop eating that chicken.
Yeah, I know. I gotta get rid
And
of that chicken. It tastes so good though. I ain't gonna hold you.
especially if you get it ain't the chicken that tastes good. It's all the ingredients that you're putting on the chicken that tastes good. You can put those same ingredients on some cauliflower.
That's
But
true.
the thing about it, especially if you get a drumstick or any piece of chicken and the bone, especially drumstick, if the bone is broken, that means that thing is filled with steroids and all other kind of chemicals. Because the chicken
Wow.
they built, they stuff it with so many steroids that the chicken was too heavy that it broke its legs. So
Wow.
while it was still alive, it was sitting there with broken legs, and then they, dice it up and they serve it to you. So
Oh
if
my
you bite into a
goodness.
piece and that damn bone is broken, you spit that out and don't eat that chicken because it's
Wow.
steroided up like big dog.
Wow. Good God
Yeah.
Almighty. All right, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you go, man. I appreciate. I got one more thing for you though.
All right.
I want you to connect with Dan, man. I hope one day you guys can get together.
I've sent Dan a few messages because I've sent them a few messages to try to see if we can arrange something. He hasn't responded. I can imagine he gets a lot of requests on a consistent basis. But I've been sending a lot of messages here recently because I do want to start doing more shows with other people. And I do have one that we're trying to schedule up, which might be this weekend. I'm not sure, with another guy who has a very popular TikTok channel. So I'm working on it. I'm working on it to get
Cool, man. That'd be awesome,
some of
man.
these people
That
on
would be
here.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would love to have.
Cool, brother.
I would just ask Dan questions and let him talk.
That'd be awesome, man. It'd be awesome. I would love to hear that when hopefully you guys get together and do that because that would be a awesome, awesome chat.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
awesome
working on it.
fried chat. It's good to see you, brother. I'm definitely got to come see you again, man. I had such a good time that day when we got connected. It's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was great.
All right, brother.
And
You
when they
take it easy.
come to Vegas, I'll show you how to roll them dice and win about 2 grand.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All
All
right.
right, all right, brother.
Right. Let's see. I know I missed a lot of things that y'all said. Uh, how do you? How close to bedtime are you eating? I try to stop. I stop 3 hours before bedtime. And yes, sometimes I lay in the bed and I feel a little snacky. So I got a bag of almonds that are next to my bed so that I can just grab a handful to knock that out, or I drink a bottle of water. But I hate drinking that bottle of water because I know it's going to wake me up about 3, 4 in the morning to go to the restroom, but about 3 hours. Uh, that's what I used to tell my clients uh, when I was a trainer. Uh, yeah, preachers never discuss diet. Of course not, because they eat like crap, most of them. Because the preachers don't want the people in the church to be healthy and to give them basic ways that they can control their lives themselves. That's why you never hear them every week talking about diet. Every week they're not talking about better money management. No, they just want you to pray. They just want you to pray. They may have one event throughout the year and that's about it. Yeah, chicken and fish are better choices than pork and beef for the vibrancy of it, but they're still dead energy. Most of the energy that's in it is gone because they're dead and it's flesh, and your lymphatic system is still fighting all them toxins. you know. But one thing that there's a test that you can take, and I can't think of the name of it, but it helps identify what you should be eating for your body, because we all have different chemical makeups of our body, and it can shit. I can't remember what that test is. It costs about $500-$600 to get this test done, and you'll be able to know what you should be eating for your body chemistry. Um, science is great. Science is opening up a lot of doors for us to be able to identify what we should be eating and doing for ourselves. I remember reading this book when I was a personal trainer. Texas Goddess, Eat Right for your type, and is that the blood type book? I still thought it was too general. It was too much of a generalized book, but it's a good start. Yeah, it's a good start with the blood type. But it's still kind of generalized. I forgot. I wish I can remember the name of that damn test that you take. I'll look it up and be able to remember it for the next time we're on. Fast between dinner and breakfast. Well, that is fasting. It's called break fast. You're breaking the fast. Nah, if you can't, that's why I have the little almonds next to the bed and some water, because if I do need a little handful, it'll knock it out and I can take my ass to sleep. But I'm a night owl, so if I eat at 9 o'clock at night, I'm not going to bed till about 12, 1 o'clock anyway. Oh no, 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 no. I can't do that one. Mm-mm. As far as water is, now if you can do that, Sharon, more power to you. I would fall out. Uh, I get that hunger in my throat. Now, as far as water, actually, I would tell my clients, whatever your weight is, drink half of that in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, then drink 100 ounces of water every day. If you drink half your weight in ounces of water, it'll flush your system. You won't feel as hungry because your ass gonna be drinking water constantly. Yeah, and the test that I was talking about is based on that, Casey. Casey said that scientists say your diet should be based on your microbiome, and it's a test that can tell you what that is. Yeah, see, I'm like Texas Goddess. I'm not going to bed till late, late, and then I don't wake up early unless I have to. Like tomorrow, I gotta get up, so I gotta take my car to get a brake job done. But that's the only reason I'm getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, I wouldn't get up till 10:30, 11 o'clock. What does the Bible say about debt? Technically, a person should not be in debt as far as what the Bible is concerned. But if you find yourself in debt, then the Bible talks about you going into debt slavery, and that you should be a slave to the person that you're in debt towards. Um, but you should never go in debt. You should count the cost at all every time, even though that's more of a business thing that it's talking about. But you shouldn't be in debt. But I like the richest man in Babylon. You only go into debt for things that you know are going to that for things that you are looking for a return on your investment. So I have taken out many bank loans, and I take those bank loans out if it's buying something that's going to increase in value. The only thing I take a bank loan out on that doesn't increase in value is cars and motorcycles. That's it. But anything else that I would take a bank loan for is going to have to be put towards something that's going to increase the value. Like the last time I took a bank loan out, it was to build a cigar lounge. So I opened up the cigar lounge so that it can make money, and then therefore the cigar lounge pays off the debt. So those are the only times you should go in debt. You got a credit card, try to pay that damn thing off at the end of every month. You know, don't try to hold on to it. If you are buying a house and you renovate it, you get your HELOC loan or a second mortgage on it, you're getting it because you want to renovate that house either to live in it and so that the value of the house goes up, or to rent it out, or to flip it so that you make money off of it. Beyond that, uh, being $20,000, $30,000 in credit card debt because you wanted to buy a whole bunch of stuff, no. But most systems talk about not doing that. Uh, what you say? John said, everything you do to try to live longer only makes you think about death more. What's the motto? Think it, believe it, receive it. I'm going to live. I do shit to live longer because I'm going to live longer. I don't even think about death because there's no such thing as death. I'll just do something. My consciousness to go and do something else somewhere else, being whatever it's going to be. And I know I'm not drinking water right now, but this is my only soda today. And I probably won't have another soda for about 4 or 5 days, if that. Eric said his grandmother, in relation to debt, his grandmother used to say, as long as you owe, you'll never be broke. No disrespect to your grandmother, but that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Not at all. And two of my favorite people who live to be 100 and the other one 112, and I spoke about this on a video the other day about tobacco, uh, George Burns and Mr. William, they drink uh, some whiskey every night and every day. They drink some whiskey. And there's a lot of people I know who lived a long time, and they all say that they drink at least a shot of whiskey every day. I've never researched what that does. I don't know, that alcohol burn or kill something. I don't know. But they drink a little bit of whiskey every day. You inside a room or outside? I'm outside. If you was here earlier, Mahindra, there was some trees behind me. They still back there. You don't see all these bugs flying around because I got these lights on. Now, Casey mentioned Bart Ehrman earlier. I do like a lot of Bart Ehrman's work. He does some deep dives into what things meant back in the day. So Bart Ehrman would be a good person. But like anybody, and even like with myself, always go back and check the information. Say happy chemicals. Oh, Texas, you'll be in Atlanta next week. But how long will you be there? What are the actual dates? What's the actual date? And by the way, this should be, let me make sure before I post it. This should be the link to the YouTube video of the Satan's Guide to the Bible, that Crimson sent. And it's funny, Crimson, I saw that. Oh shit. That link was too long, so it broke it up into a whole bunch of different ones. So that link is not gonna work. Ah hell. I hate when it does that. It was too long for the text box. But and I had seen that video. It's popped up on my damn feed a bunch of times. So now I know exactly which one you're talking about. But Satan's Guide to the Bible. It's a little I thought that I could post the link, but it didn't. Oh yeah, my bad. Ain't my bad. I'm putting all your business out on Front Street. Yeah, just email it to me. Because we are coming back to Atlanta. I just want to see if you'll still be there when we come to Atlanta uh, here real soon. Well, you said actually yeah. If you're there long enough, you will be there when we're there. Say, for those who do live in Atlanta or visiting Atlanta, we will be in Atlanta from about the 15th through the 19th, and then we're going to leave, go on a cruise, to which we're going to go to I can never say this right, Bimini, on this cruise. And I'm going to do my best. I ain't going to do my best. We are going to go to the Bimini Road. If you've ever seen, what's his name? It's either, is it Ron Hancock? Ron Hancock does he had a very good documentary on ancient apocalypse, and he talks about the Bimini Road possibly demonstrating how after the sea levels rose 400 feet, how Bimini might have had this ancient civilization and could possibly be Atlantis. I'm not going to go with the whole Atlantis thing, but um, I am going to go. We are going to go and check out the Bimini Road. So somewhere between we're supposed to get to the Bimini on the 21st of May. So either that video will drop that evening or the next day, the 22nd, of what we see at Bimini Road. Because it's one of those things that I want to see. Because I'm not accepting that those are natural rock formations. That's not acceptable. Not from what I can tell from what Hancock had put out there in his documentary. But it's one of those things I want to see it myself. So we will be in Atlanta during that time frame. So let me know if you're in Atlanta, uh, Texas. Yes, I know you'll send me an email. But I think Crimson, you're in Atlanta as well. And I told you if you ain't posted a video by the time I get to Atlanta, you can expect to get a little throat punch. Um, but I think we're going to begin to wrap it up here for tonight because this is too many bugs. Um, I know y'all didn't get to see Angelina tonight because she is watching her Celtics play. Oh, sorry, team. Uh, but I appreciate everybody. We will be live again tomorrow evening, because it's gonna be 90 degrees here. So I damn sure ain't coming out in the daytime to do a live. That'd be too damn hot. But I appreciate everybody, going through Deuteronomy 19 and 20, even though they're very short chapters, they truly show how immoral this God is and why we walk away from it. Ramses, you're just going to have to watch the rebroadcast of it that you're just now coming in. But Ramsey, I'll be in Atlanta next week. So we'll definitely hook up then. Um, so I appreciate everybody. And until tomorrow, always remember that you got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and share the videos. Share the videos. Share it. Share it. Share it. And once again, share them. And go and watch those 2 videos I did today. I put a lot of energy into those 2 videos today. So y'all go watch those 3 videos today. 3. I put a lot of energy into those. So go look at them and also let me know if you like having more little pictures and shit pop up in the video. So y'all have a great one, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Thank you, Ravenna, for the donation to the channel. I appreciate it very, very much. And we're out.